welcome back to another Facebook Live at Avenue. Today, talking about endocrine disruptors. I know most of us have actually heard that term, but maybe don't even know what they are, what they do. We know they're in our environment. They're everywhere, and so that's what's really kind of scary. And think about the water bottle you just drank from. The plastic has endocrine disruptor in it. Carpet you maybe just sat on at your house, endocrine disruptor. Shampoos, even the food we eat, right? The fish we just ate that wasn't wild caught, right? Farm raised, tons of endocrine disruptors. What do they do? Like, what is an endocrine disruptor? So the endocrine system consists of glands, obviously, that we release hormones. And hormones act like chemical messengers. They bind, they travel around the body, and they cause what we would say predictable cellular changes. Well, an endocrine disruptor mimics an actual hormone. So think of estrogen for women, androgens for men. And it mimics it, but it's obviously not an actual naturally occurring hormone. So it can create a powerful response, even more powerful than the original hormone would have. So if I just had an estrogen molecule that was trying to create translate a message, this can actually create a much more powerful response. Or it can create a less powerful response than what it should when it mimics that. Or it can create a totally different response, which is even scarier. And in the end, they change hormone creation, synthesis, transport, binding, and breakdown. So you've got these fake hormones floating through your body with these endocrine disruptors that literally act like a hormone, walk, talk, do all this, but they don't do the same thing, and it changes around the balance within your body. And as we get into this today, I'm going to show you how scary that actually looks. And in even small amounts, they can have a really big influence. They're measured in parts per trillion. So that tells you how tiny and powerful they are. And they're super stable. They don't break down quickly. They stay in our bodies for a very long time, in our environment for a very long time. Water, air, soil, all of that. And since our hormonal systems are the critical function of our body and health, here's what some of the side effects, I'm not even going to say side effects, these are huge effects, guys, that EDs, endocrine disruptors, can do. Oxidative stress. For those of you that probably have heard of that, basically oxidative stress is where you have an imbalance of free radicals, bad, and antioxidants, good, in your body. And the balance is so much that there are so many free radicals that the antioxidants can't keep them in check. And that's when you think about diabetes, blood pressure, heart disease, cancers, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, all of those really bad things start to pop up because the free radicals are taking over and they can't be kept in check. Think about altered testicular function and suppression of testosterone synthesis. So male hormones, we're talking about suppression. They don't synthesize the right way. Early onset of female menstruation. So girls getting their puberty, menstruation, their periods much younger and younger. We've seen that in our culture. Sensory impairment and social problems, especially when exposed at early ages. So infants and children are highly, highly sensitive to endocrine disruptors. As adults, we are too. There's a lot of issues that you'll see that I talk about. But children and infants are really bad just because of their developmental stage. Altered conversion of cholesterol, promotion of obesity. It alters metabolism, fat cell signaling, glucose uptake, inflammation, and appetite. So it really does, guys. It promotes weight gain. And problem with that is they're stored more heavily in fat cells. So the more fat cells you have, the more that you store them, they stick around in your body longer. So it's this wonderful relationship that gets created. They cause you to gain weight because that's how they're making their home and their nest there. Altered onset of puberty at younger ages, disrupted immune function, disrupted bone health, cardiac function, and mental status. That's just to name a few, guys. So with industrialization, these chemicals are, more and more of these chemicals or these ED disruptors are being produced. Food, personal care products, we've talked about this with the cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, pesticides, plastics, water, soil. And unfortunately, guys, in the US, we have no regulating body over these, which is super scary. There's an endocrine disruptor screening program that's currently making its way through 87,000 chemicals. And then we still don't have regulation over it. We've got 87 known chemicals that are out there that are causing these problems, and we have no one to regulate them. That's pretty scary. They're hard to get rid of. Like I said, they stick around in everything. Now, studies, which is one thing that it was really crazy when they were showing different things within our environment, within our food, that are heavily affected. And here's a statistic that really stood out to me, that studies in the U.S. show that pregnant women have substantial exposure to EDs. This exposure might influence long-term metabolic outcomes in offspring. And they found that in the U.S., women's breast milk tend to have 10 to 20% more endocrine disruptors than any other country. So that tells you a lot about our diet that we're intaking, even before you get pregnant. That's the thing, is there's this cocktail effect. And because this stuff sticks around, if you are heavily loaded up with endocrine disruptors through diet and environment, maybe even by where you lived, when we talked about the Teflon stuff a few weeks back, talking about areas of the United States in particular where chemicals are getting dumped, and they've found that there's been big chemical dumps, and what that does to the environment, your water, your soil that you're growing your crops in. So if you've been exposed for a long time and you've got a lot of them hanging out in your body, you're going to see that, like, with these women that now can, and if they can get pregnant, because again, it's a fertility issue that has been arising. Obviously, I'm sure everybody on here can say, hey, I know these people that have a fertility, that this woman. So again, these disruptors are a direct cause of this, but we're seeing that even before you get pregnant, and then obviously in utero, and then puberty, adult, and it's these things are accumulating, and they're staying. So mother is passing it on to the infant. All right. Some of the most common ones to look out for, guys. The list is long. I'm going to kind of go through these. I'll recap it in the editorial notes when I do that. But PBCs and dioxins found in pesticides, they interfere with transport and metabolism of thyroid hormones. So again, thyroid issues have been on the rise in the last decade or two. Flame retardants. We talked about this last week with the mattresses. So it's also in furniture. Similar to the thyroid disruptor, thyroid balance, we can find a lot of it in meat, fish, dairy, and eggs. So again, that's where we go back and say, are you questioning your sources of where you get your meat, where you get your dairy, your fish, your eggs? The salmon, it's a really distinct difference when you're at the store and you can look down at 2 salmon pieces for sale. One is farm raised and one is wild caught. Start being very particular about that. Don't just go and buy the meat that you have no idea where it came from. Question it, hit up the farmer's market. So that's a whole other soapbox I'm on, but just knowing that you're getting a lot of this through your food and how long it's sticking around in your body. Found in meat, again, I just went over that. Eating vegetables and fruits might offer somewhat of a protection from dioxins, because dioxins are really heavily concentrated in meat. Soy and other foods. So, we've got soy that is naturally occurring, right? And then we've got the soy that we tend to, with soybeans, soybean oil. We talked about the oils quite a few weeks back too. Really bad. They've got endocrine disruptors in there. I know I mentioned that in that one, but I want to reiterate that especially for men, right? You guys have soy is a problem when you're putting it in synthetic form over and over into your body. It ups your estrogen, stimulates your estrogen production. All right, pesticides, food, water, oil, or soil, sorry. Pesticides are associated with ADHD and thyroid stuff, or thyroid issues, I should say. Perfluorinated chemicals. Think about cooking in Teflon, like your packages that are coming on your food, guys. That's why we always say shop the perimeters of the grocery store where things don't have to come in sealed packages, because even the packaging, even if the food itself is somewhat harmless, the sealed packaging it comes in is where the harm comes from. Phthalates, it's plastics, food packaging, cosmetics, and cleaning agents. Fragrances, guys. This again goes back to where we were talking about perfumes, fragrances, and how bad are they. Highlights of these are their anti-androgen, which means negative influence on semen quality, right? That is a big problem. If, again, it's not always that the woman is always just the infertile, you've got semen quality as well. So you'll find that most people that have infertility issues, right? The man and the woman both need to get tested to see who's actually bringing in the problem, if not both. BPAs, plastics. You guys have heard that one a ton. They leach into our food and beverages. The older the plastic is, the more EDs it's releasing. In 1964, 42 metric tons of BPA were produced in the U.S. In 2007, 12 years ago, 1 million metric tons. That's a ton of plastic, guys. More than 90% of the U.S. population is exposed to BPA, and it's not cleared very quickly from the body. So think of exposure as cardiovascular disease, diabetes, sperm issues. So just meaning that it's changing around the DNA and the cells in sperm. Reproductive organ dysfunction and altered immunity. Observations obviously show a lot of BPA harmful effects on wildlife. We're finding that in streams and oceans, even in our oceans, all the plastic that they're finding out there that's been discarded in a wrong way is causing fish and frogs and all these creatures, right, to have dual sex organs that they never had before, or really messed up anatomy. So if it's doing that to our population just within our waterways, imagine what it's doing to us. There's obviously a big let off of like aerospace, weapon, and pharmaceutical industries, found in drinking water and fireworks. It compromises iodine uptake into thyroid. So again, you're finding the thyroid, and we all know thyroid is a very, very big deal when it comes to your health. Personal care products, we went over this, linked to allergies, asthma, again, thyroid. So again, guys, I'm not going to go through all this. The one last one I was going to touch on was the parabens, which we went through with cosmetic stuff, deodorants in particular. But it mimics estrogen, and that's problematic if you don't need more estrogen in your body. And I know for a lot of women that I've even had experience with, but just in talking with some female women doctors and specialties, that estrogen is being overproduced. Yes, sometimes when women go through, say, premenopause and menopause, they need estrogen replacement. But we're finding that even women at younger ages have too much estrogen in their body, and same goes for men. So a lot of this is coming through our diet and our environment. So what can you guys do? All right, what can we do? It sounds kind of like scary death sentence here, and I'm not trying to be gloom and doom, but let's think of ways to clear this out of our immediate bodies, households, as much as we can. Will we get exposure through environment? Yes. But as I said, guys, these are measured in parts per trillion. So that means every little bit that you can take away out of your consumption and your world helps immensely in the buildup within your body. All right, so think about ways to reduce your exposure. So getting everything out of your house. We talked about bad cosmetics. We've talked about, down to deodorants. We've talked about household cleaners. Big one. Be a critical consumer. Ask what's in the products that you're doing. I know I was shopping yesterday for some cleaning products. I just was trying to find some different stuff that I was going to try. But again, I was having to, it took me 10 times longer at the store because I was pulling up my environmental working group, EWG.org site to see, like, okay, is this rated good? Is there endocrine disruptors? Is there allergy problems? And yes, it takes time, but it is well worth it to know that I'm not bringing that into my house. Help your body get rid of toxins. Eating the best quality, freshest foods you can afford, organic if you can get it. Get your sweat on, guys. One way that the body naturally detoxes toxins, right? Sweat. Get active. Use infrared sauna. I've not touched on that in any Facebook Live, but I will get to that at some point. And make sure your liver's functioning well, eating plenty of fiber. And if you know what? If you don't really know, go see someone that does. go see a functional nutritionist or someone that can help you start that process of trying to detox your body. Last thing, guys, use containers like glass, steel, ceramic, and aluminum when possible. Try to stay away from heating anything in the microwave of plastic, obviously styrofoam. Get rid of your plastic utensils, wooden or metal, right? And start using jars. I know Cassie's really good about this here, is that mason jars, right? Glass jars to store your stuff in versus just all these plastic containers. And I need to do that. I'm guilty at my house. I've got a lot of Tupperware, but it's not, it's been broken down, and here I am just letting it sit there. And like I said, the longer the plastic is around, the more EDs that it's releasing. So get that out of your life. All right, guys, hit me up with any questions. I know it was a lot of information today, but well worth your time to start going through not only what you eat, what you put on your face and your body, what's in your house for cleaning, and start eliminating some of this stuff out of your world. Have a great weekend, guys. Enjoy the cold front coming in.